Hello everybody and welcome back to A Royal Reader. My name is Cici and today I'm going to be talking about my best and worst books of 2022. So unfortunately my year for reading last year was abysmal. Goodreads says that my average star rating for 2022 was 2.9 stars. I only read 36 books out of my target of 50. Fortunately, 2022 was a year of really bad stress, anxiety, a whole lot of mental health issues, and just overall not really a good year. It was very, very stressful. So I'm not too upset about the lack of good books. I guess it just goes with what the year was. Firstly, before we get into anything, I do just want to apologize for any background noises you can hear. I'm in the library. The library does not have an aircon, so I have the fan on as fast as I can get it without it being too detrimental to the audio. I've also closed the blinds so that people can't see in. So if you hear any of the noises in the background, I do apologize. It is just so insanely hot right now, and I'm sweating. But anyway, let's get in. So we'll start off with the best books of the year. So these ones, they're not exactly the best. I don't think I've given any books for the year 2022 5 stars. I think the highest was maybe a 4. So unfortunately no actual 5 stars, but these are basically the ones that I have enjoyed the most out of what I read. I only have 3 physical copies of the books I've read that are the best books. And there's only one other book that was a Kindle read. So let's just get into the first book that I managed to read in 2022 that I enjoyed the most, which is going to be, of course, Sarah J. Maas's House of Sky and Breath. This is the second book in the Crescent City series. I'm sure everybody has had this on their list. This might be either the worst book or the best book that they've read. I'm going to be leaning more towards the best. This book was very, very long. A lot of it I feel like was a little bit unbelievable, I'm not going to lie. I do go into more depth about this in my vlog that I did for it. I'll say what everybody else has said. The last, maybe 20 pages of the book is what makes the book. Yeah, this book, the ending just blew my mind 100% out of the water. I have no idea what to expect for the next one. So yes, I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars, just because of how long-winded it was and just the unbelievability, if that's even a word, of certain circumstances. So yes. Then next on the list we have one that I really wasn't expecting to like, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. That is Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. This is just a YA fantasy where we have 2 main characters who are both twin sisters. One twin was taken by the witches and brought up as a witch, and the other one was left in the palace and brought up as a princess. Once the one that was taken for the witches comes to a certain age, she decides that she's going to try and take back the crown and sort of rewrite the history for witches because they've been ostracized and things like that. And hijinks ensue. This was just a fun, quick YA. Things were very, predictable and things like that, but I had a good time nonetheless, and it is only a duology, so I am interested in getting the second book. So yeah, I think I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I still really enjoyed it nonetheless though. The next one that I read is the ending of a series that I have been reading for a few years now. I think almost 4 or 5 years since I've started reading it. So this is a bit of a bittersweet ending, but Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 7th and final book in the Throne of Glass series. This is the big tome of a book that finishes off the series, as far as we know anyway. And I already knew, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that happened due to spoilers that people tell me in real life, as well as like on TikTok and stuff like that. So I already knew a lot of the stuff that was happening, but it didn't make it hurt any less. Unfortunately, I didn't cry, and I was really wanting to cry because Empire of Storms just broke me. So a little bit disappointed I didn't cry. But ultimately, I am happy with how things ended. Um, it's just bittersweet. This is a bittersweet ending. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, or maybe I think originally I gave it a 5 stars and then went, no, it's not a 5 stars. It's definitely a 4 star. So, and the next book that I read was a very, very quick one that I decided to pick up out of the blue because I was desperate. I was desperate for a good read. So I went to Kindle Unlimited, looked at some of the fantasy romances, and decided to pick up Serpent and Wings. Let me just double check. The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. So this is book 1 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So I've heard everybody talking about this book, saw a TikTok about it, and it said like if you loved Akamath, then you will like this. So gave it a try. Really enjoyed it. It was actually quite interesting. It's a vampire story, which I have not read a lot of vampire stories. It's been a while. And I enjoyed it. It was very interesting reading this person's take on vampires and the sort of lore and stuff like that. So in this we have our main character, Oriah, who when she was a human, she is human. When she was little, the king of the realm sort of ransacked her city, and for some reason he decided to basically adopt her. So she is the king's human pet, basically, like a daughter. Nothing untoward or anything like that. And she wants to go back to her hometown and try and find her parents or family or something like that, just to see if anybody is alive so she can reconnect with them. And the only way that she can do that is if she enters into this competition that happens I think it's maybe every 100 or 1,000 years, something along those lines, where it's basically like a match to the death with a whole bunch of the different clans and different people, kind of like Hunger Games, where different people from different districts, different clans, go in, fight to the death to win a gift from the goddess Nyaxia, who was the goddess who created vampires. So she enters into this, and obviously people think that she's not going to win because she's a human facing a bunch of vampires, and it's just her having to like team up with this ruggedly handsome vampire who she didn't want to, and he's part of this clan that isn't good, and he's so mysterious and dark and vengeful, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The ending was very interesting. I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed, but I still really enjoyed it nonetheless. Rain, who is the male main character, I love him. He is a really good main character. Broody and has like reasons to be broody, and just I loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. So I am excited for the next book, which I think comes out soon. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, I definitely recommend getting this book. I'll just keep it to 4 of them, like I've got my 4 best books. These were mainly all Kindle reads, so I do feel like that possibly the Kindle, when I read books on Kindles, if it's something that is a very, very high fantasy, that it has like its own glossary and things like that, I do struggle with it. So I do feel like that could possibly be one of the reasons why these books weren't the best for me. So these are like a mix of the worst and also disappointing reads. So the first one on my list is going to be it's going to be Hellfire by Marielle Pomeroy. I think I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This is a indie author. She is actually on Instagram, which is how I found the story in the first place. So she's published this all by herself and everything, which is absolutely amazing and really, really incredible and such an inspiration. Her story is kind of involving like angels and demons in a way. I think it was very difficult to understand. So the world building isn't exactly quite clear, and it's very, very heavy on having its own glossary with like full-on sentences and languages and things like that, which made it a little bit hard to be able to like flip back and forward between, like, you know, where you're reading and the glossary at the back of the Kindle. So I do think that sort of hindered my experience with it. It was also very, very smutty. Very, very smutty. And I feel like a lot of the main plot of the story is based on the sort of relationship that the main characters have with each other. So in this, we have a main character, Hiya, I think is how you pronounce her name. She is trying to escape from her kingdom and enters into this sort of badlands, I guess you could say. And in order for her to be able to stay in these lands free and, you know, not harmed or anything, she gives a piece of her soul to the leader of this sort of territory. And basically she's just trying to figure out how she can escape and get her soul back and things like that. It's very, very steamy, and the writing was good. Just I think that the world building needs to be a little bit more clearer for people to understand it, because it's very heavily based on you need to know what the glossary says in order to understand it, if that makes sense. So a little bit disappointing, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's also a very long book as well, but nonetheless, you know, it is what it is. I definitely think that reading it on the Kindle hindered my experience 100%. So the next one that I have that was a bit of a disappointment was the Critical Role Vox Machina book, Kith and Kin. I don't have my copy because unfortunately I ripped the cover in half. Don't tell me how. Don't ask me how. I don't know. But yeah, this was a really big disappointment. It just felt very boring, and for it to be a backstory of the characters, I felt like it should have included more of the actual backstory of how the characters came to be the way they are, instead of getting it in flashbacks. So if you're not too sure what Critical Role or Vox Machina is, it is a group of voice actors who play Dungeons and Dragons on a live stream, and it was, you know, blew up over the internet, and it's become really, really well known. Incredible story, incredible characters. It's just amazing. If you ever want to get into Dungeons and Dragons, I highly recommend you watching their Vox Machina series. It is like over 200 episodes long, and each episode's between 3 to 5 hours, so prepared for yourself for like a very, very long, long time. But it is absolutely incredible. The world building is amazing. This was meant to be a sort of backstory into two of the main characters, who are Vex and Vax, who are half-elven twins. This was meant to be, well, I don't even know if it was meant to be a backstory sort of retelling, or if it was just meant to be a sort of, you know, short story about one of their adventures that they had before they met up with the main group of Vox Machina. Either way, I was kind of disappointed. The writing was really, really good, so it's not so much more about the author themselves, it is more about the plot of the story. We only got sort of backstories about the characters', you know, history in flashbacks, which happened like every other chapter or so, and it just wasn't enough. I wanted more of that. But I do think that the portrayal of the characters was like spot on 100%, which I thought was really, really good. So I enjoyed it. It just wasn't what I was looking for when I went into this book. So the next book that was also a disappointment was The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. So this is the second book in the Prison Healer series. I did have a vlog where I read the entire series, but my SD card didn't save anything, so I have lost the footage of that entire vlog, unfortunately. So I read that entire series. This is the second book in the series. This book did not need to be anywhere near as long as it was. It was extremely, I don't want to say bad, it definitely suffered from second book syndrome 110%. It was definitely mainly on like the relationships, but even then the relationship wasn't even like the main part. It was just all about the main characters suffering I guess, but not even. I don't know. It was just the plot and everything just did not do anything for me. I felt like it could have focused on other things rather than the stuff that it did focus on. So the Prison Hiller series is about our main character, Ziva. She is a prisoner at this really bad prison. And her father was a really well-known healer when he was unfortunately arrested and put into the prison. So after he passes away, she then picks up the job, basically. So she's known as the prison healer. Then one day there are talks about the rebels rising up to go against the crown, and somehow they managed to bring the rebel leader into the prison, and she's suffering from some sort of illness, and so they charge Kiva with, you know, trying to heal the rebel leader, and she has no idea what's wrong with her, doesn't know how to fix her. But in order for her to survive, Kiva ends up taking her place in these trials, which is basically it's called the trials by ordeal, which is where it's 4 trials, each involving the elements, and you have to pass it, and if you pass it, then you can be free and live your life and leave the prison, stuff like that. Obviously, if you don't pass any of them, you're dead, you die. So they charge the rebel leader with this trial by ordeal, and Kiva decides to take her place in it because the rebel leader is just, she's like stuck in a coma, there's no way she can heal her, she doesn't know what to do, so she takes her spot, basically. And that's the sort of first book in the series. The first book was okay. The second book definitely suffered from second book syndrome. I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I think I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It just, biggest disappointment ever. I was really hoping for it to involve something more action based rather than it being relationship based, and even then the relationships weren't grown the way I wanted them to, so it was just overall a really big disappointment. Okay, so the last disappointment that I have is going to be A Curious Beginning, which is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell series. This is like a Regency sort of, not Regency, a Victorian era sort of murder mystery in a way. It was just all over the place for me. I didn't really like it all that much. I think originally I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I dropped it down to a 3. The banter in this between the main characters is good, and I think that's what sort of pulled it together the most. But basically in this we have a main character, Veronica Speedwell, who is a butterfly catcher. I don't know what the scientific name is for it, I can't remember, but she's a butterfly catcher, and she has just basically lost her caretakers, sorry. They've just passed away, and so she's now like a free woman, able to live on her own. And when she comes home from the funeral, she is attacked, and somebody has like completely ransacked her home. A lovely gentleman decides that he's going to try and help her, and he's like, "You're in trouble, we need to protect you and keep you safe." So he takes her to go and stay with his friend called, what was he called? Stroker? Yeah, Stroker. And it's like, "Stay here, I'll come back and, you know, we can get you out, we can help you and keep you safe." The next day, that guy's dead. So it's basically Veronica and Stroker teaming together to try and find out why people wanted her dead, you know, why did they kill the guy that helped her, and so on and so forth. It's a very long-winded story. The ending was very shocking. Definitely didn't expect it, and I feel like it was kind of out there in a way, without there being actually any like prompts for it at all. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. I kind of want to continue the series, but at the same time I don't want to dedicate my time to it, so it's not going to be like a top priority for me, basically. So there we have it, top worst books and top best books of 2022. Let us hope that 2023 is going to be a better year. I am desperate to read some good books. Please let me know if you have any suggestions. What were your favorite books of the year, and I will try and give them a go and see if I like them. I am desperate at this point for a good book. If you enjoyed this if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below, and also give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I really hope you guys enjoy this so I can see you guys more often. And let's get to reading.